What's up guys, my name's Tom and welcome back to the FPL Centre. Today I'm going to do what is basically a crash course on the official fantasy game for UEFA Champions League. I'm going to cover the rules, the scoring system and going to focus on highlighting the key differences to Fantasy Premier League that you need to be aware of when playing the game. I'll make sure a link to the official rules will be in the description below. If you want to see more content on the Champions League fantasy game in future, make sure to give this video a like and get yourself subscribed and let me know in the comments. To sign up for an account, just head over to gaming.uefa.com and hit the create team button. From there, you'll be able to follow the steps of the sign up process and you'll go through stages like selecting your team, choosing your captain, choosing a team badge, giving your team a name. You can choose to join the league of a particular club that you support, along with fellow fans, just like in FPL. And finally, you'll receive this page here which says to save your team. Click on the login to continue button and you'll give the option here to sign up if you're not a member yet. And once you've gone through that process, your team will be saved and you will officially be a part of the Fantasy Champions League game. The format of the game is essentially the same as you find in Fantasy Premier League. Managers are given a budget of €100 million to fund a squad of 15 players. Those 15 players are split across 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders and 3 forwards. During the group stages, a maximum of 3 players may be selected from the same team. During the first knockout stage, that increases to 4 players from the same team, then it increases again to 5 in the quarterfinals, 6 in the semi-finals, and finally you can select up to 8 players from the same team when it comes to the Champions League final. Just like in the Fantasy Premier League game, managers are allowed to make a certain number of free transfers per game week. However, since the Champions League becomes a knockout competition after the group stages, the rules are slightly different. During the group stages, you're allowed to make 2 transfers per game week, with 1 free transfer carrying over to the next week. You can hold and play a maximum of 3 free transfers in a single game week during the group stages. As in FPL, you incur a -4 points hit for every transfer made on top of your free transfers. Once the group stages are finished, there is a window where you can make unlimited changes to your team before the kickoff of the first knockout round. From the first knockout round all the way through to the final, you're allowed to make 5 free transfers between rounds, and between each leg of those rounds, you are allowed to make 3 free transfers. So for example, in the quarterfinals, in between the first leg and the second leg of the quarterfinals, you're allowed to make 3 free transfers, and then once the quarterfinals are done, in the gap between the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, you're allowed to make 5 free transfers between those rounds. When setting up your team or making transfers, there are different filters that you will be able to apply. You can search for players in order of the team selected by, showing the percentage of managers in the game that currently own that player. You can search by the total points they scored from the previous season, and you can also search by different stats that they may have recorded from last season's competition. Obviously, when this season's competition gets underway, the stats here will reflect the competition so far. If you want to choose a player from a particular club, you can also choose to filter by club. Just select the club that you would like to select from, and then the players for the position will be highlighted from that club. There's also a search bar here to help you find a particular player if you have someone in mind. So now you've completed your team, let's have a quick look at the scoring system. As you can imagine, players are awarded points for the contributions they make in the games they play. The scoring system is largely the same as you will find in Fantasy Premier League, however there are a few minor differences that I'd like to point out. All players regardless of position are awarded 3 points for an assist, just like in FPL. However, unlike in Fantasy Premier League, no assists are awarded to players for winning a penalty or a free kick. Instead, 2 points are awarded to a player for winning a penalty. The defending player who concedes the penalty is also punished with -1 point. In the knockout stages of the tournament, any contributions made in extra time are counted towards a player's points total, but penalty shootouts are not counted, so if your player scores in a penalty shootout, he will not be awarded points for the goal. One key difference in Fantasy Champions League is that you're allowed to make substitutions between games within the same game week. So for example, if one of the players in your starting lineup has a game on Tuesday but doesn't do very well, and then you have a player on your bench who features in a game on Wednesday, you can make a substitution in the hope that the player from your bench will do better and provide you with more points. Fantasy Champions League managers will also have 2 boosters available to them. These are the equivalent to chips in Fantasy Premier League. There is no triple captain and no bench boost. Instead, you're able to use a wild card, which, as you might expect, means you're able to make unlimited transfers without any points hits. The more interesting chip, though, is the limitless wildcard. This essentially acts like the free hit chip in FPL, since it allows unlimited transfers for 1 week only, with your team reverting back to your previous players once that game week is complete. However, this chip is truly limitless in that budget restrictions do not apply. The limits on the number of players from the same team will apply, but you can essentially pack your team full of the most expensive players in the game for 1 week only, with no budget limitations. Time it right and this could be a huge advantage. If you liked the video and you want to see more Fantasy Champions League content, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and get yourself subscribed. You can also follow me on Twitter at FPL Center for regular updates on my fantasy teams in both FPL and Fantasy Champions League. That's all from me today, guys. Thanks for watching.